Hello and welcome to this World's Greenest Hospital Live. My name is Felicia Hedetoft and I work as the communications coordinator for NCSH, the Nordic Center for Sustainable Healthcare. Before we get started, let me just mention that this webinar is being recorded. So for those of you who prefer to stay anonymous, please feel free to do so. I know that we have representation here today from many corners of the world, not only from the Nordic countries and mainland Europe, but also from Singapore, India, Great Britain, Ireland, to name but a few. So it's great to have you here, and we look forward to the great conversations that we will be having this afternoon. And lucky for all of us, today it really does not matter that we are all in different places in the world, because together we will be transferring ourselves to the world's greenest hospital, Grønnköpingkið, right in the middle of the Nordics. But before we step inside the hospital, let us just briefly go back in time. Because as with many other things, Grønnköpingkið was created by us at NCSH to meet a demand. So NCSH is a network formed in 2015. Today we have 140 members from 18 different countries with the goal of boosting sustainable healthcare. And with this boosting goal, our approach has been to put all actors into the same room, whether these be hospitals, companies, universities, clusters, NGOs, or similar. And for those of you who would like to know a little bit more about what it's like to be a member in this network, you have the QR code you can scan to get to our member offer and find some more details. So as you can see, this is a highly international arena, but our starting point has been in the Nordic countries. So these are countries with a long tradition of strong healthcare systems, as well as ambitious environmental work. And so come the pandemic, we were getting more and more inquiries from actors all over the world, asking us about what green solutions are currently used at Nordic hospitals. And so we started thinking, how can we make this sort of second layer of our logo map even more visible? And this is, of course, the layer of all the green solutions that are currently being supplied by many of the members in our network. So when we were thinking about how to do this in the best way, we, of course, turned to the online world, and that's how Grønnköpingkið came to be. So Grønnköpingkið is a digital hospital created to showcase and make accessible the greenest healthcare solutions that are currently on the market and that are already in use in Nordic hospitals. So once this is finished, the hospital will contain about 100 solutions, each divided into the different categories needed to create more sustainable care practices, basically. So this then means that the world's greenest hospital is also the opposite of trying to reinvent the wheel over and over again. Instead, it's about making solutions more accessible. You could call it, if you wanted to, a sort of one-stop shop or solution bank even. Because on this platform, you can come to be inspired, you can browse, and at the same time find all information that you need to carry out the purchase for a greener healthcare facility. And green is, of course, the key word here, because what makes Grønnköpingkið the very greenest is the diversity of solutions on the platform that all contribute to building resilience to withstand future disruptions. Whether this be through lowering emissions, to optimizing the use of resources, or improving the working environment. And just a quick note here for any of you sitting out there now with a product or service that you believe would be fitting for the World's Greenest Hospital. Do have a look at the platform and reach out to me or my colleagues here at NCSH. There is still room inside the hospital for more solutions. And if you, just like us, cannot get enough of sustainable healthcare, there are many exciting events coming up in the near future. So on the 23rd of January, we have our training in sustainable healthcare. We have a couple of these trainings every year. They are completely free for members, both new and old. So if you are considering joining as a member, this would be a great opportunity to do so. And already on the day after, on the 24th of January, we are arranging a webinar together with the Swedish Energy Agency with the title Bridging Britain and Sweden, Concrete Synergies for Energy and Climate Smart Healthcare. So if you are an actor with an interest in collaboration in this area, you should really check this webinar out and sign up. On the 12th of March, we have the first World's Greenest Hospital Live of 2024. And lastly, but definitely not leastly or least, on the 15th of October, we have our sixth Nordic Conference on Sustainable Healthcare here in Malmö, Sweden, which is a follow-up of the very rewarding conference that we had in October this year. I can also mention for our member organizations that we at NCSH have just started very exciting work in India. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, you can send us an email. And of course, scan the QR code to get to our calendar, to read more about these events and to register. And here you can see my contact details as well, if you have any further questions. But now what you have all been waiting for, it's time for the live tour of the hospital and of some of the solutions that are currently at work in Grønnköpingkið. And as an audience, we would of course love to hear your thoughts as well on green hospitals. So we have the Q&A at the end where we would love to hear from you. And I'm sure you will have many questions as well to our speakers. So do write these in the chat, or once we get to the Q&A, be brave, turn on your camera and speak up and ask your questions. We would love to hear from you. So now, Marielle Backström, Anders Ordmyr, and Lars Wångblad from Mölnlycke.
So hi everyone, and thanks to Nordics Center for Sustainable Healthcare for giving us the opportunity to present our sustainable, safe and efficient solutions for the OR here today. I'm Marielle Backström and I'm the marketing manager for operating room solutions in the Nordic countries at Mölnlycke. And I am here today to present with my colleague Lars Wångblad.
Hello there, everyone.
And he is the business development manager for gloves. So human health is directly linked to our environment, and healthcare organizations have a significant climate impact, and therefore the opportunity to make meaningful contributions towards a better environment. And because of this mutual reliance between healthcare and the planet, at Mölnlycke, we talk about healthcare for the planet too. Today, we would like to share some exciting possibilities of solutions for the future that benefit not only the patients and the healthcare organizations, but also the planet. At Mölnlycke, we work to reduce our environmental footprint when it comes to our solutions for the operating room without compromising the safety of the patients or healthcare professionals. We often think about patient outcomes in terms of patient morbidity or mortality, all related to increased cost to the hospitals. But patient outcomes also contribute to sustainable healthcare. Taking care of a patient has an environmental impact and currently involves the use of non-renewable resources. And therefore, it is crucial to reduce the risk of clinical complications as it leads to extended care times. and clinical complications with extended care time has an environmental impact. Prevention of poor outcomes that result in further treatment does not only save cost, but also the climate impact, such as greenhouse gas emissions. Mölnlycke has a commitment to net zero through the Science Based Targets initiative, which includes our own operations, scope 1 and 2, as well as emissions in our upstream and downstream supply chain, scope 3. And indirect greenhouse gas emissions, scope 3, constitutes more than 80% of all our emissions. Within scope 3, in turn, purchased goods and services have been identified as the most significant aspect for Mölnlycke, and therefore should form our primary area for focus for improvement. So how do we work to reduce our environmental impact within scope 3? Well, as a medical device supplier, our most important mission is to deliver solutions that are safe to use and ensure that the intended use of providing infection control is optimized. We are not compromising with the safety for the patient. So in the development of sustainable innovations, we look at opportunities to convert to renewable materials, increase recycled materials, decrease material in production, recycling our products, and reduce the use of toxic chemicals. So now I will hand over to my colleague Lars.
So how do we work to reduce our environmental impact within scope 3? To be able to develop Mölnlycke as a company, we assess the sustainability performance of all our products. The portfolio assessment will help us guide our customers to make more sustainable choices, as well as improve insights on how to further develop our portfolio to become even more sustainable. One important tool to use to improve the transparency is the life cycle assessment. We have, as a company, a goal to include all our products into the assessment path. In the next slide, I will give you an example of a recent LCA that we have conducted. So to be able to support you as a customer in choosing a more sustainable surgical glove, we decided to perform a life cycle assessment comparing two materials that we are using to produce our biogel surgical gloves in. Today we use two materials, natural rubber latex and polyisoprene. Natural rubber latex is a renewable raw material, and the Mölnlycke natural rubber latex glove itself does not contain any fossil derived materials. On the other hand, the polyisoprene that we use, which is a major material, comes from crude oil, which is a fossil-based raw material. So what is our conclusion and how can we prove the result? So to have the data and evidence in what we say, we conducted, as I said, a life cycle assessment according to the standards ISO 14040 and 44. It's a full life cycle assessment, cradle to gate, and we have also had a third party reviewing it. In the slide you see the products that we have included in the life cycle assessment. There are three different versions of the natural rubber latex gloves and two of the polyisoprene gloves, produced in natural rubber latex and polyisoprene, both packed as single gloves and as double packed indicator gloves. So for the public audience, the LCA aimed to present the global warming potential for biogel natural rubber latex and biogel polyisoprene. And the result is that a biogel natural rubber latex glove have 23 to 30% lower global warming potential than a biogel polyisoprene glove. We also learned, and this is very important, that approximately half of the global warming potential for our surgical gloves comes from our own manufacturing, scope 1 and 2, and upstream raw material, scope 3. A part of the value chain that we fully control and where we can drive improvements, which will help us to identify further improvements and opportunity as we continue our journey to become a net zero company by 2050, the latest. So Marielle, do you have any more examples that we can show?
Sure, Lars. So another area where we have performed an LCA is our high volume barrier patient drapes. Our range of barrier ISCC certified surgical drapes manufactured in our factory in Belgium marks a big step on our journey toward achieving actively minimizing our environmental footprint. To move toward achieving that goal, we have introduced a mass balance approach to our drape production. This is a step-by-step way to move from fossil-based to bio-based materials in our supply chain and account for the volume of non-fossil materials that has been put into the system. Some content in the process is simply replacing by bio-based oil instead of fossil-based oil to make the product. And based on the LCA result, we have developed an evidence-based calculation tool, a CO2e calculator that allows to calculate and display the potential or realized reduction in carbon footprint through the mass balance concept and ISCC certification. So depending on the sales numbers that we extract, we can calculate the emissions reduction on a customer, region, or country level. With these barrier surgical drapes, we can help our users to choose products that can help them reduce their carbon footprint and achieve their environmental objectives while continuing to provide safe care to their patients. Next, we will show you some examples of products. First out is the Barrier ISCC certified Mayo stamp cover. This ISCC certified product is a result of a combination of introducing both bio-based raw material and down-gauging of material. Compared to the equivalent non-ISCC certified product, this ISCC certified version has approximately a 25% weight reduction in the plastic tube, as well as that this tube contains of 21% bio-based material. The next example is the ISCC certified barrier patient drape range. And here, depending on the product code, we can see between 20 and 28% reduction in CO2 emission, comparing the ISCC version with the traditional drape. The barrier patient drapes are high volume products in the Nordic countries and are sold in most regions. In Sweden, for example, we have already converted over 16,000 drapes, which means a reduction of CO2e emissions by approximately 3 tons. But there are more possibilities. And in Sweden, for example, if all current users of barrier patient drapes would convert to the barrier ISCC certified assortment, there is a CO2e reduction potential of 344 tons. Sustainability can mean many different things, and there are many ways to work with sustainability in the OR. With our procedure pack trays, we can offer increased OR efficiency, time savings, and waste reduction. And with our procedure pack trays, you can customize it by including the components that your surgical team need for a specific intervention. And you can choose from over 5,000 components to create a fully customized tray. for increased OR efficiency and time saving. But also by moving from single packed items to Mölnlycke procedure pack trays, you can reduce your surgical packaging waste by up to 90%. With the 5,000 components that we offer, you also have the opportunity to add more sustainable ones, such as a foldable bowl made of FSC certified wood from the Northern Europe, our tray organizer made of renewable raw material, pulp, or a needle counter made of sugarcane. Another component that you can choose from and at the same time reduce the harmful chemicals is the PVC-free L-hook. And finally, here you have another example of plastic reduction, a syringe that uses less material than other syringes, and there are many other opportunities. And with the approximately 1.5 million procedure pack trays that we sell in the Nordic countries on a yearly basis, the possibilities are many to make a reduced impact on the environment. We, Lars and myself, would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We would like to continue the dialogue and how we can partner up together and make a difference. Healthcare providers and healthcare suppliers must work in partnership to ensure that prevention and patient safety remains at the core. It is crucial that clinical and procurement teams consider value in terms of safety, cost, and the environmental impact in order to future-proof the system, the true objective of the sustainability agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Marielle and Lars. A great note about collaboration there as well at the end. I saw that we already have some questions from Mölnlycke in the chat, so keep them coming. We will get to them at the Q&A at the end. And for those of you who would like to get to know more about the Mölnlycke as well, go into the Greenest Hospital platform and you can find their solution in the MedTech and ICT category. I also thought it was nice, Marielle and Lars, to hear more about how you work with transparency and, of course, your journey to net zero. So I look forward to hearing more about that at a later stage. And now it is time for the second solution of this webinar. So I welcome Hjalmar Bardh Olsson from Hållbar Teknik to the floor. Welcome, Hjalmar.
Thank you, Felicia. Thanks for having me. I'll try to share my screen as well here. Okay, excellent. So hello, everybody. My name is Hjalmar. I'm head of sustainability at a Swedish company called Hållbar Teknik. In English, it's Sustainable Technique. We provide a circular solution for hospitals and other care facilities, more precisely related to floor management and floor renovation. At World's Greenest Hospital, you can find us under the category of architecture and construction. So just a brief up to brief introduction to sustainable hospitals and buildings. As you've heard, building and construction represents a great part of today's CO2 emissions. There are different statistics depending a little bit on how you categorize the field and industry, but built environments represent about 40 to 42% of global emissions. and it is said to be the single largest consumer of resources, which is very much at the core of climate change. So a big part of this problem area is floors. Here in Sweden alone, 25 million square meters of floors are being installed and replaced, causing around 250 million kilograms of CO2 emissions annually. So for real sustainable impact in general, but also for healthcare and hospitals, we need behavioral changes that consume less. So healthcare and hospitals need to rethink when it comes to procurement and usage. Instead of turning up the gas on new and smart products, we need to use the brake. So Hållbar Teknik was founded upon an ambition and a business model for circularity and 100% reuse, refurbish of floors. As we are telling regions, hospitals, municipalities, etc., to stop tearing out old floors and replace them with new ones, and instead renovate and strengthen the existing floors. So Hållbar Teknik was founded in Umeå in 2015, same as Nordic Center, and it was founded by technical floor experts. And we work within our field of expertise only, so this is not an add-on service to other core business or products. We have offices in Umeå, Stockholm, Gothenburg, and in Lund, down here in Skåne. So we are operational in the entire country. This map shows you not all of them, but most of the regions and municipalities that we work with. Green dots representing municipalities and the blue dots representing regions, who are, as you know, responsible for the healthcare and hospitals in Sweden. But the interest from private sector and government agencies is just growing. Here are a few examples of organizations who have understood the benefits of working with us to renovate their floors. So what is it that's so special about what we do? We have a floor coating that is unique here in Sweden and the Nordics. It's a water-based coating with tiny ceramic particles in the top layer. And this strengthened coating protects the floor surface against future wearing and eliminates the need for periodic maintenance. So the picture here to the bottom right is a powerful zoom in. In real life, the coating with ceramics is just a super thin layer, and you wouldn't be able to see it with your naked eye. So this top coating is enough to make the surface extremely tolerant due to the hardness of the ceramic particles mixed with the coating. So if you could peel it off, you would be able to bend it though. So it's not a hard ceramic surface like a glass table or anything. It's still very loosened. So all the tests that we've done of resilience for wearing has shown that our coating is superior to any other surface protection, on the market. So this allows us to offer a 10-year guarantee against wear down of the surface, and this is to be on the safe side. In most cases, we could offer a 20 or 30-year guarantee. The 10 years is with margin, is what we can guarantee, even for the most high traffic areas that you could possibly imagine. So here are just a few examples of hospital floors that we've renovated. This first one is from an OR room at Sahlgrenska Hospital in Gothenburg. In facilities like this, you'll often find small gashes and scratches where bacteria and viruses cause health issues. The infection prevention and control authorities, they know that this is a problem. But replacing a floor takes up valuable time. There's already a lot of time pressure that are placing patients on hold. So we can come in and renovate floors like this in a matter of hours. And the risk of damage by dropping a scalpel or any other sharp instrument on the floor in the future is decreased enormously. This is another example. This is a linoleum floor in an administrative area at Karolinska Hospital in Stockholm. Now, linoleum is a beautiful natural material, but it's quite complicated to maintain. We often recommend transparent coating, considering how well the floors come out once we've done the job, but we can add any color to the floors if requested. For example, here at Karolinska, they wanted to give the areas a facelift with a more of a pastel sort of pink color, and it came out quite nice. At many of the care facilities we come across, this is one example from Region Västerbotten. It's in the north of Sweden. These are old linoleum or PVC floors that are torn and dirty. They have tape and walkway wear marks. Most facility managers think that a floor like this needs to be replaced. But like I said, we often recommend transparent coating, considering how they look pretty much as good as new with our renovation here to the right. Wooden floors are perhaps the most nice looking floors, but they also require a lot of maintenance. In high traffic areas, wooden floors require maintenance about 3 times per year. So an estimated cost for that is around 24 euro per square meter per year. But we can provide an option where we sand the floor and add our ceramic coating in a way that the wooden floors can stay fresh and look as new, and they're protected then for years and years and years to come. So to sum up, these are some of the main benefits for hospitals and facility managers with using Hållbar Teknik. It's 100% reuse solutions. We're saving up probably more than 90% CO2 compared to new floors. And looking at the life cycle of the floors, in general, we expend the life of the floors with at least 10 years before recoating needs to be performed. The economic upside is an important benefit for many of our customers. We help save at least 50% in direct costs compared to installing new floors. But there are more upsides to, for example, eliminating the need for maintenance and minimizing interruptions in the ongoing operations. So since there is both time, money, and climate to be spared by getting rid of the need for sanding, grinding, waxing, polish, epoxy, etc., there is really also no need for heavy or smelly chemicals once we've added our coating, and the cleaning becomes a lot easier for the staff. Also, like I said, it's a lot more time efficient to renovate, to tear out and install new floors. In this way, we can minimize the time that healthcare facilities are closed off, keeping patients in the waiting room instead of getting their care in time. That's pretty much what I thought I'd present here today. Thanks a lot for listening. Be sure to visit us at our website or at World's Greenest Hospital if you want to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hjalmar, for that presentation. And as Hjalmar mentioned in the beginning of his PowerPoint, you can find Hållbar Teknik's solution in the architecture and construction category at the World's Greenest Hospital. I thought, Hjalmar, that it was very interesting. Also, of course, the pattern or the approach you have at Hållbar Teknik with consuming less as well, and how that ties very tightly into sustainability, but also about how sustainability is not only about extending the use of, for instance, a floor, but sustainability is also about the look of something, how you can make a room feel anew, which is important. I think we can all agree for the working environment, patient care, and so on. So grasping the full picture of sustainability and what that means in the long term. So thank you very much, Hjalmar, for that.
Thank you.
And of course, ask your questions in the chat while you're listening, as we welcome the third solution of the day to the floor. So Olof Bachman from Evercare Medical, the stage is yours.
Great, thank you. I hope sound is coming through as planned. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all in the audience for taking some time out of your day to listen. I hope I can present a few interesting things of what we've been doing on our side over the past few years here. So I will be sharing a little bit on our latest brand called Embra, and what that means for us and how we work with it. Let's see here. All right, so I think this slide is not really saying anything that nobody in this room doesn't already know. But for us, of course, same as for many others, kind of the kickoff was understanding the UN Paris Agreement and what it means for the business and for production and for the healthcare sector. Evercare Medical is part of a group called Asker Healthcare Group. On group level, there's been work ongoing for a few years to establish our scope 1, 2, and 3 numbers and report on those. And we could see for us versus many other manufacturers, scope 1 and 2 was very, very small, mainly due to a lot of our businesses are distributing products from companies such as Mölnlycke that presented before, and our manufacturing is done on contract. And so that puts most of our emissions in scope 3 instead. We also, based on these numbers, analyzed our possibilities on SBTi targets that was submitted a year ago, basically, and approved earlier this year. From the scope 1 and 2 and 3, we could see that scope 3 very big. Scope 1 and 2 is almost nothing, to be honest. And then we dig deeper into scope 3 and understanding where can we do things. Evercare Medical is one of the companies in the group that has a big impact in scope 3. So for us, it became an exercise of drilling down and looking at where do we have the high impact, what product groups or what processes. And then start working on those and see, here is something we can do, what's possible today to stay still, compliant with regulatory matters, etc. But also, something that we can develop rather quickly and get started today, because time is moving super quick. So this kind of all ended up in this brand called Embra. So Embra was derived from the word embrace. It stands for a clear commitment to embracing both environmental and social sustainability. Quick note on social. We've been working quite a lot with social sustainability for the last 10 years. Primarily making sure that the workforce or the human rights are protected well in our supply chain. But as of the last few years, then added quite a big focus on environmental as well. The Embra way for us is really to develop responsible solutions where we try to lower the impact while still keeping a high quality for both patients and caregivers. We do this by considering new processes or new materials, and with processes then primarily manufacturing processes. But of course, we also have the strong ethical codes that I mentioned, and ensuring that quality is kept at a very high level through the entire value chain. The UN SDGs are, of course, also taken into consideration. So all our criteria or the ways that we work with the brand are supposed to connect to the SDGs as well. And it's being highlighted on each product slide I will be sharing later what SDG they connect to. So to the nitty-gritty, what was really our intention with Embra? I mean, we were looking at our portfolio, seeing there are products that we can re-engineer or develop, but how do we make it understandable or easy to grasp for a customer to make them or to help them make the decision in an easier way. So we said, let's put all these products that we come up with into the new brand Embra, and we developed a kind of quick guide or a rule book for what an Embra product must meet. And we've defined 5 different rules or criteria, and a product needs to meet one of these. So basically, by buying an Embra product, the customer can know that, at least I've made a difference today, and then they can dig deeper and understand, well, how big is that difference? And it becomes a more data-driven exercise, basically. The first criteria is, of course, I think one of the most difficult or challenging criteria in terms of developing products for it, and it's measuring the CO2e footprint. This is typically, or I'd say always, done by an LCA. So we measure a legacy product that we manufacture and sell today, and we measure the new version or the new product that is similar in its application. And if we can prove a 20% reduction, it can become an Embra product. Or we use at least 50% recycled raw material, or we use 70% renewable raw material. These are criteria where, for maybe the sake of speed or the technical level of the product doesn't necessarily day one warrant a full LCA. At least we can make a big impact immediately and say, well, this is an Embra product, just by reading basically the raw material specification. Number 4, reusable products. I can be, I think, honest and say that we don't carry any reusable products today, but we are looking into different circular solutions for consumables. So basically taking something that today is being used and then sent for waste management, but rather than send it back and repurpose or clean and repack and sell it again. Quite challenging. There's a lot of caveats and pitfalls that you can step into, but it's a very interesting area. And the last one is external certification, and that would be something like the Nordic Swan, a third-party independent certification that approves or can certify that the product does meet some type of environmental criteria. So looking into what is the first batch of products that we've developed and produced and are today selling. Number 1, our newest examination glove. Examination gloves are the highest contributor to CO2 footprint from the healthcare sector. And we've been in discussions or in a partnership with a manufacturer for quite a few years. We got a little bit delayed by the pandemic, but last year we were able to launch this glove that is made from nitrile, similar to other nitrile gloves, but it does have a slightly different composition, which makes the total footprint cradle to grave 27% less. I think it's key for us here is that we are comparing, versus a product that we carry and produce ourselves. So we have the same amount of primary data. We know that what we're saying is very accurate in, to the extent that LCAs are accurate. There's a lot of data to collect, but we feel very comfortable with our LCAs that we've done so far. We also package it in FSC certified packaging, of course. And apart from that, the glove itself, it's latex-free, accelerator-free. And this new nitrile material is relatively sturdy or strong. So we can make it really thin and still have a high degree of protection. So you can also save a little bit on the total weight of the product and still meet kind of the same performance as a slightly thicker product. Headwear. Our headwear, so surgical caps and hoods, are made from viscose as of earlier this year. Previously, we used a much higher percentage of polyester, but the viscose we are sourcing is coming from a sustainably managed forest, so FSC certified viscose. and it's very, how should I put it, relatively cleanly produced. We know viscose has its own challenges, but the way this one is made is to a high degree a very good version of viscose. We've also moved some of the production locally. It doesn't always make sense to do so. I mean, it's really digging into the LCA and understanding where the impact is happening. It's not always in transport, but here we also had an opportunity to move some of it. Swabs, same thing here. We've reduced the amount of polyester and increased the amount of viscose. We've also replaced cotton. Cotton is of course a very water-consuming resource. So by doing so, we've been able to reduce that impact. So it's not all CO2. It's also other parts of the LCA that are important to capture. There are, of course, other challenges with cotton, as you all know, and that we are looking to avoid, such as human rights violations, etc. Bosco Green is our single-use apron. It's made from 70% renewable materials, and in this case, it's being produced from a sugarcane-based PE film. The numbers here, at least 20%, I cannot share the exact number because we're making a small adjustment to the recipe, but it's quite a lot higher than 20% actually. But if we were to replace all our other normal film aprons today, at least we would be able to cut 1.3 or 1,300 tons of CO2 emissions. So this is a very challenging material in many ways. It's typically not used this high degree, as high as 70%. Typically, you see it used for 25%. But we've been able to, together with the manufacturer, develop a stable film that can still kind of meet the requirements and demands of the customer. Shoe covers. So anyone not from Northern Europe, I mean, you can almost close your ears for this one. We see this is a high interest product in our region where we have a lot of snow and rain during the winter. It's not so popular in Southern Europe, but it is a very, very high volume product in our region. And that kind of the products that I'm showing here is coming back to what I said in the beginning. We looked into where do we have the highest impact? And those are the products that we are re-engineering. And shoe covers is one of those. So we've changed the recipe here. We are using 50% post-industrial recycled plastic instead, without any loss of performance or feel for the customer. And lastly, our garbage bag as well. We do sell quite a few garbage bags for hospitals and nursing homes, etc. And we've been developed this bag with 50% recycled plastic. There are ways to do it with 100% recycle, but by keeping 50% mix between virgin and recycle, we can make the film very, very thin. So it's only 9 μ. So it is very, very lightweight. So the total material used is quite low. And 50% of that material then is recycled. So thank you for listening. There are, of course, more products coming in the future. We are working on a number of different initiatives. So I hope I'll be back later next year to show what's happened since today, basically. Feel free to send me an email or reach out on LinkedIn, for instance, if you have questions or ideas. We're happy to have any type of open discussion on things that we can do together. It's not just selling products. It's more finding opportunities that we're looking for. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Olof. And I urge you to take his offer to get in contact and create some nice discussions as well. Nice, Olof, to get such a full buffet table of your Embra products. It was also very nice to get such transparent insight into your LCA and how you make your priorities and the criteria that you have for the Embra products. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And of course, you can find the Embra in the MedTech and ICT category at the World's Greenest Hospital as well, where you find some contact details too. Now moving on to another category on the platform, waste solutions. And with that, I would like to welcome Henrik Alfredsson from FrostPharma to the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen and hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you very much for letting me in. Henrik Alfredsson from FrostPharma. We'll talk about WoodSafe, which is the world's first certified waste bin made of renewable material. So it's biocomposite. So it's highly urgent, as you all heard from the COP28 in Dubai, how we can phase out our dependency on fossil-based oil. And this is a very simple way of doing that. We've been able to mold waste bins in a material that is based on sawdust and bio-based polymers. So over 80% of the material is renewable. We can actually produce it in 100% renewable in the near future. So on the left side there, you see the pellets there, is a mix of the sawdust. So we have a full range of waste bins, risk waste bins, all the way from half a liter up to 50 liter. And they are all certified for sharps. We actually started out with, our mission has been to find smarter, sustainable solutions for the healthcare overall. And we started out with dosing aids. You've seen so all the pharmacies in Sweden are now handing out for syringes and medical cups and etc. We started with bioplastic to reduce the dependence on oil. But this is the big step. So these are the first ones in the world that are produced, and they are all produced in Sweden. So the raw materials from Sweden, in the world's largest biocomposite plant in Hyltebruk in southern part of Sweden, and they are molded in Eskilstuna. By starting out, we've heard some very, very good, interesting and good examples all over, but especially from Mölnlycke and Embra as well, where we can reduce the CO2 footprint. But just looking at WoodSafe and bio-based bins, just so everyone is aware that all of these bins are going into incineration. So only in the Nordics, there are over 10 million bins, all the way from small ones to big ones, but over 10 million bins every year that goes into combustion, incineration. And it's the third biggest source of single-use plastic used in healthcare. So we heard a lot about how many tons you could save from changing to different articles before in previous presentations. But by just changing from yellow bins to these bio-based bins, you can reduce by 39,000 tons every year only in the Nordics. And they have the same approval and certification as the existing ones. So below you see this is based on calculations from the Gothenburg region and extrapolated to the Nordic numbers. So gloves are number 1, aprons number 2, and waste bins are number 3. So put this in perspective, these top 3 articles represent over 70% of all single-use plastic in healthcare. So over 72% are these top 3, and they all go into incineration. So we heard about Hjalmar before, mentioned rethink, and I think we need to rethink overall how we can, phase out our dependency on fossil-based oil. And there are some very, very good existing solutions already out there. We can use renewable material for the waste bin. We can recycle the aprons. It's already in progress in several hospitals here in Stockholm. And we could reduce the usage maybe of gloves and recycle part of the glove. And we already saw from Mölnlycke and Embra that are good alternatives to reduce the CO2 of existing gloves. And it's quite interesting where we have also the push or the pull with the new CSRD regulations, where you need to show the numbers. It's not enough anymore to talk about the greener planet and change, picking the greenest alternative. We now have to show how much we reduce. And that's the importance of having a very good LCA, which would show you the actual kilos and tons you save on each product. And doing a good LCA, which include cradle to grave and nothing else. And once you have the LCA, you can actually start to improve your own product and focus on where you can have the big gains. So back to wood safe. Today, almost all bins today are fossil based. You're pumping up oil and you are transporting them all across Europe or maybe from Asia, and you're filling them with plastic waste. And sometimes you put the smaller bins in a larger bin, and then they send it to incineration. So it's a one-way street, and it's filling up the CO2 in the atmosphere. It doesn't make sense. And even if you also calculate how much, we did a calculation with one of the biggest incineration plant. So in a large bin, 50 or 60 liter, over 50% of the weight is the bin. So to throw away, get rid of 1 kilo of risk waste, you need to use more than 1 kilo of fossil-based plastic. So we also need to use the bins in a smarter way. But by using a renewable material, in this case, sawdust, which is a residual waste. So we're not growing trees to produce wood safe. This is the residual waste that can't be used for anything else. And we mix it with the pine oil bio-based polymers and been able to mold in this material. So that would actually circulate in the long run. And also by producing it in Sweden, it takes a lot of energy to mold these bins. The energy mix in Sweden is the greenest in Europe, if you exclude Iceland, but they don't have that many trees or sawdust. That's very, it's highly beneficial to produce them as well in Sweden. And I will get to the LCA, which we just produced. We've done a full LCA, cradle to grave, which is important because we all know that 100% of these bins go into incineration, so you cover all the steps. So on the left side of the screen, you will see a comparison with 1 kilo of fossil-based plastic, and in the gray you see the bins available with recycled plastic. And in the brown grid, you will see the wood safe. So by just changing from the yellow bin to the brown bin, you will reduce the CO2 emissions by 66%, so 2/3. And the interesting part, if you see on the right side of the screen, we have split up the LCA in the different steps. We calculated the extraction of the raw material, the production of the bin, the transportation, and the incineration part. This will also help us to improve the product over time. But as you can see on the right side, it doesn't matter if you burn recycled plastic or virgin plastic. It is the same pollution in the end. Because even if you use recycled material, you have to burn it, and then you have to fill up with new fossil-based oil in the other end of the pipe. And also has benefits in all steps, as you can see. So this is a full LCA produced by Miljögiraff, which is an independent company. And we also have a calculator, as also mentioned before by Mölnlycke, and I think this will be very, very powerful in the very near future, based on the reports that needs to be put into this CSRD EU regulation. You can go into woodsafe.green and you will find a climate calculator. You can also find the full LCA. Everything is transparent. You can download everything. But here you can fill in exactly how many bins in different sizes you've used, and it calculates directly. So as you can see here, it's actually, I think these figures are from Danderyds Hospital. They will reduce by 35 tons every year by just changing to WoodSafe. And this is, you know, just to put the numbers in perspective, this is approximately 10 times around the world in a car. So it's a full LCA, cradle to grave. It fulfills the IPCC standard of an LCA, and it, as mentioned before, also the ISO 14040/44. And I think we have a very interesting next year when this CSRD, especially for companies above 500 employees, where they need to report the actual number of tons they produce. So WoodSafe is probably the easiest climate action in the world. It has the same logistic as today, and you just change from a yellow to a brown bin. Of course, maybe you're used to round or square ones, but we have the full assortment all the way up to 50-liter ones, and they're all certified and approved for sharps. So feel free to contact me or my colleagues. Here's my contact details, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that, Henrik. Really nice and interesting to hear more about WoodSafe. And of course, you can also find this solution in the waste solutions category at the world's greenest hospital. Also very interesting to see a little sneak peek into your climate calculator. So I'll be sure to look at that as well, as I'm sure that other people will too. I also like the kind of the metaphor that you made with moving away from this type of one-way street with fossil-based products. And I see it as kind of moving into this continuous roundabout when we move into using the renewable WoodSafe, for instance. So it's a nice way of thinking. So thank you very much, Henrik, for that. And for the audience, do remember to ask your questions in the chat or keep them in mind for the Q&A at the end. Now we will stay in the waste solution category for the last solution of this webinar, when we welcome Luqman Tariq from Stryker to the floor. So welcome, Luqman.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you. I hope that you can see me. I'll share my screen.
We can see and hear you perfectly.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah. Well, again, like all the speakers, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to present on behalf of Stryker. Yeah, as you said, Felicia, we stayed in that space of waste management. So I think Henrik made my life a little bit easier by presenting his slides. So that's great. Yeah, my name is Luqman Tariq. I'm the European Director for Market Access in Stryker. And yeah, we have conducted some work related to our technology, which is called the Neptune 3 system. And the purpose behind this is to drive together more sustainable surgical waste management practice. So I would like to present that piece a bit to you today. Well, first of all, as I mentioned, we are Stryker, and our company mission, as you can see here, is together with our customers, we are driven to make healthcare better. Now, of course, that can be seen in different ways. How do you define healthcare better, right? So what is our strategy to do that? This is our company strategy. It's publicly available information, so you can also find it on our website or Google that. Basically, we have 4 pillars focused on our company strategy. So customer focus, innovation, globalization, and financial performance. And I would like to ask you to focus on the innovation pillar. So the emphasis here is really to make healthcare better through evidence-based products and services, that enable a safer patient care and improve outcomes. So basically, developing responsible solutions which add certain value to the healthcare system and the stakeholders involved in that system. And for one of that reason, that's exactly why we have developed the Neptune 3 system, which is a waste management system. It's a constantly closed system that collects, transports, and disposes surgical fluid waste. And you can see the system here, the technology itself. It's basically consisting of three key components. One is the manifold that is connected to the surgery that is being conducted and to the technology itself, which is the rover, right? So that's the machine where all the surgical waste is collected and stored. And this product can take up to 24 liters of fluid waste in one go, right? So the maximum amount is 24 liters. And the third component is a docking station where the technology is, the rover is connected so that the fluid waste can be disposed through the sewage or through other channels, right? So these are the three key components of the technology itself. The narrative of Neptune is built around three pillars, which I'll take you through one by one. So one is environment, right? So how can we make surgical waste management more environmental friendly? Second one is safety. So how can we make it more safe for healthcare staff to be active in the operating room? And the third one is efficiency. So basically, how can we simplify the day-to-day activities that are done by the healthcare staff in the operating room? Now, if we take a step back, we are trying to, of course, optimize or make more sustainable the surgical waste management handling. So what is surgical waste? Surgical waste, as we define that in our case, is basically fluid waste that is extracted from the patient during the surgical procedure. Currently, the way surgical waste is processed is through this way, which actually touches also Henrik's presentation. So plastic canisters are used that you can see on the left top of the screen that are filled with fluid waste during the surgery that is, let's say, disposed from the patient. And that waste through the canisters is manually then processed into bins and bags, which are plastic. And those bins and bags are then transferred to the incineration department of the hospital or to another facility where the waste gets incinerated. Now, of course, it's a no-brainer that has a strong or heavy environmental impact. So that's one side of the current waste management process. The other one is more related to the staff, and these are real-life pictures. As you can see here, it can create a significant risk, a safety risk for healthcare staff, but not just a physical safety risk, but also a microbiological hazard risk. And as you can see here, the waste can be, kind of all over the floor. I think there was a presentation on the coating on the floor. Maybe that's an opportunity here as well to make this more sustainable. But I think it's clear that this way of managing waste creates not just risk for the staff, but also in general for the environment. Now with this, of course, there's a lot of statistics around what is the environmental impact that's created due to this processing, this type of processing of waste. Manual handling, as I mentioned, all the waste is then treated or transferred in a manual way. That, of course, also creates a risk of workplace injuries. And there's a lot of statistics around the fact that there are certain proportion of injuries that are caused due to manual handling of waste. And all of this together, backed up by statistics that if we want to incinerate a ton of waste, clinical waste, we are actually creating 3 times more CO2 impact, and maybe even more based on Henrik's presentation as well. That is, of course, something that is not sustainable. So clearly, there's a need to develop more or introduce more sustainable solutions for waste management. And that's exactly where Neptune comes into the picture. So as I explained, Neptune has three components: the manifold, the rover, and the docking station. And the idea behind introducing Neptune in the operating room is to replace all the plastic that you see in this red box on the left side, is to basically replace all of that with that one manifold, which is 53 grams, to basically replace all the plastic and make sure that the operating room becomes more sustainable and more safe place to work for healthcare staff. Now with this, of course, what we are doing is not just communicating this message by ourselves. We have done a lot of research on this. So this is a study that we published earlier this year. It is comparing Neptune versus canister. This is a prospective, a cross-sectional epidemiological study where we observe surgeries which are conducted using canisters versus surgeries which are conducted using the Neptune. And we looked at 4 endpoints. One is sustainability, so how many disposables are used, how much plastic is used. Second one was safety, so how many adverse events or injuries happen in those surgeries. Third one was staff efficiency, so how much staff is needed to manage waste in a manual way or manage waste with Neptune, and the user satisfaction. Now, this is all public information. The study is published in the International Journal of Annals of Medicine and Surgery. The conclusion of the study was that with Neptune, we are reducing the amount of waste that is treated in a more sustainable way, and Neptune improves safety, efficiency, and user satisfaction of those that have experienced the Neptune in the OR. Now, all of this data is publicly available. Again, it is peer-reviewed, it is published, so that's one side. And if we deep dive a little bit more into this study and look at it from a sustainability point of view, here you see a graph comparing Neptune versus canisters, and it is showing actually the amount of treated waste that's related to the surgeries that were observed. And there was a 98.5% of reduction of the total amount of waste that is treated with Neptune versus the canisters, making Neptune a more sustainable technology. A similar observation that we saw is in the number of disposables that were used in the surgeries. So here we saw 87% reduction, or on average, which means 16 less disposables being used with Neptune in the surgery were compared to canisters. So this is based on the epidemiological study, which is called the Green study that we conducted. In addition to this, we have also conducted the life cycle analysis for Neptune, so comparing Neptune versus canisters. And this is done in the Netherlands through an independent company called Green Cycle. And in this LCA, we saw that the CO2 impact that you see here on the screen, so on the horizontal axis, you see the amount of fluid waste that can be produced in a surgery, so ranging from 0.1 liter to the maximum amount of 24 liters that can be captured in a Neptune. So we clearly see across the spectrum that the impact of CO2, of Neptune on CO2 is less, significantly less for higher volume of procedures compared to the canisters. And we saw a similar picture when we looked at the fossil resources. So here again, Neptune showed to have a much lower impact compared to canisters on the fossil resources as well. We are in the process to get this LCA published as well. Of course, we have a report that is already approved by the Dutch government. We have been working with the Dutch government to get that reviewed and approved. So that is there. We are now in the process to get it published as well in an international peer-reviewed journal. So more to come on this pretty soon, I would say. And Neptune is not a new product. It has been on the market since 2001. So there's a pretty long legacy on this technology, I would say. Currently, if we look at the Neptune 3 system, which is the most recent version of the Neptune technology, we have sold already 300,000 plus units across the globe. So it's not a new technology. It's a tried and tested product. And we also see many happy customers. Here you see a couple of pictures. People are literally hugging the Neptune, especially the nurses, surgeons, and the staff, which is active in the operating room. They absolutely love Neptune. Once they use the Neptune, they actually can't imagine going back to working with canisters again. And it's not a surprise that we have been winning some awards and recognitions with the Neptune. So yeah, as Felicia, as you mentioned, Neptune is included on your website in the world's greenest hospital, which is an honor to be there. In addition to that, in the UK in 2021, we won the Waste Award, the NHS Sustainability Waste Award, among all the competition. So that's a great achievement, great honor for us. And earlier this year in Spain, the Medical Device Trade Association, which is called FENIN, they handed over to us the Sustainability Award for Neptune. So we pitched Neptune among competitors. We were awarded the winners for that competition as well. So clearly, Neptune is winning awards. It's making a difference. It's visible for users as well. There's a change that's happening as well for the users. And of course, those are, for us, great signs, because we want to increase the use of Neptune across the globe. So basically, to wrap up, again, Neptune is developed based on three pillars: environment, safety, and efficiency. It's really a green solution, I would say. If we look at all the data that's behind it and the experience, it increases safety. It simplifies handling for the OR staff. And we know that staff is happy. We know that people who are using the Neptune are really happy with the technology. And we want to increase that impact and make sure that we can help to drive more sustainable surgical waste management practice. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments. You can see my email address here. And yeah, more to come on the Neptune pretty soon. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Luqman. We look forward to follow, especially the green study that you mentioned as well, and further research on the Neptune 3 will be very interesting to see. Also very nice to see how safety, environment, and efficiency is part of the same cake, you can say, with the Neptune 3. So thank you for that. So waste solution is the category if you want to find out even more about the Neptune 3 and reach out to Stryker. I also want to thank you, Luqman, because you made a great wrapping up of all the nice presentations we've heard here today when you mentioned the importance of integrating solutions, for example, in the OR room, with the importance of flooring, for instance, when spilling surgical fluid. And I think that's a very interesting and important key point to take with us after these presentations, that for the world's greenest hospital, that is perhaps the most important, is how we integrate the solutions together to create the most sustainable impact. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so now we've come to the end of the presentations, which means that we will now be moving into the Q&A part of this webinar. I know that we've gotten some questions already in the chat, but I would first like to open up the floor to those 42 of you who are still participating. Please turn on your camera and ask some questions to our great speakers. Okay, so I think maybe we can start with the questions in the chat, and you can all have a little think if you come up with another question. So the first question is for Mölnlycke. So it says, is Mölnlycke barrier example single-use or multi-use products?
They are single-use.
And Thomas, would you like to respond or further your question in any way?
Sure, I can. Something wrong with the camera, but just a question here, because we all know we've gone through a pandemics, and the pandemics have been a plastic pollution, like especially like in the UK, they are really burning like tons and loads of containers of single-use plastic, and everyone knows this. We have to reduce single-use. And we already seen that in other industries that are leading, for example, like your cousin Essity is now with the Libresse brand going from single-use to multi-use. We also know that healthcare is really slow with a lot of barriers to entry. And we also know that S is coming from multi-use and now it's fully single-use. Are you open to discuss multi-use solutions for your surgery cloning, especially when Region Skåne has started to replace the single-use and multi-use products, which is more sustainable? That's my question.
I know we're several companies with single-use products here, so I think maybe the question is for more than us, maybe also Olof. But I think for us, as I mentioned in my presentation, priority is patient safety. And that is why the reason why we, back in the days, actually went to single-use, because we know that we follow the standard EN 13795. And the reason why we go with single use is that that's the safest solution that we have and can provide as of today. So, and also if we have patient complications, putting the patient back into the system or keeping the patient into the system, we know that it's a huge environmental impact if we have clinical complications. So as of now, I would say that for us, single use is the safest option that we can offer our customers.
Are you meaning that Region Skåne is introducing no safe solutions now? We're replacing single use with a multi-use solution with a link in the chat.
I'm not entirely sure what products you are looking at, but for Mölnlycke, we're providing. Clothing. Sorry.
Surgery clothing in the link there.
Surgical clothing, yeah. Of course, I cannot. I have no information of exactly what products you're comparing us to, so I couldn't answer. I can just answer for the products that we provide.
Yeah, but the trend is now, like with the Region Skåne, first introduce, replace a single use with multi-use because it's more sustainable than single use, and I'm sure they're introducing safe solutions.
Yeah, we have performed a review of evidence available, and actually there is no evidence saying that either or is more sustainable or more environmentally friendly. So we're looking at the bigger picture, which is also including patient safety as of now. But of course, I cannot answer to exactly the product that you have purchased in Region Skåne. So, you know, and to perform an LCA, you need to compare apples and apples. So you would need to compare within your Mölnlycke, we compare our own products to see how we can better perform when it comes to reducing our footprint, environmental footprint.
Yeah, of course, when you compare the single use to single use, but if you compare, then you reduce it. But if you compare single to multi-use is always more sustainable because you're not use it one time and throw it away.
The learning that I have when it comes to how we do LCAs or compare products, we need to compare exactly with the same data, and that's a little bit difficult to compare different companies with different products because you usually don't have all that data. So we can only compare what we are producing within Mölnlycke, so comparing apples to apples, and see where we can reduce our environmental footprint, and that is now going for example, for renewable raw material. So within our drapes, fossil-based, renewable raw material like tall oil, for example.
But look into the link there. But look into the link there because that's where the trend is going when Region Skåne replaced the single use with multi-use now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, sorry, Marielle. Yeah.
No, we can continue the dialogue maybe at a different time, Thomas. I'm happy to set up a call.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marielle and Lars, for your inputs, and thank you, Thomas, for the question. Olof, do you have anything you would like to add? I saw that you put your microphone on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I mentioned it briefly during my presentation that it is an area of interest to us, but it does come with a lot of complication. Patient safety being one of them. The reason that why we moved away from multi-use is, of course, to increase the safety. And to today go back to multi-use with the current regulatory requirements that we have, it does put a lot of extra challenge on that product. So I think if I understand Marielle right, it might be that the multi-use product will have to be of such a specification that the impact could still be very high. Right? So there's always going to be a balance between single use and relatively low impact per piece, or multi-use and higher impact. But it is interesting. We're trying to find some products in some areas where it's possible. But then, of course, it also comes down to a willingness to pay. It's a different business model. Customers are not necessarily tendering in a way that allows these products. And it's also infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt, if it's laundry service or mending, etc. So lots of challenges, but for sure something that we're looking into.
Thank you very much, Olof. I also saw that we had a comment in the chat from Malin Kanflo, who says that Region Skåne have only introduced reusable scrubs, so not drapes, gowns, etc. But very nice discussion here. I'm sure you can continue this also after the webinar, as Marielle mentioned, and look into the link that Thomas provided. Okay, so I know that we had a second question here as well. I think this was also during Mölnlycke, your presentation. So what is the cost difference of the biodrapes and products versus traditional fossil fuel derived products? This, of course, can be a question for the other speakers as well.
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the article, but as of now, renewable raw material is for us a little bit more expensive to purchase, so it has an increased price, but I'm happy also to have that dialogue separately if you want to look at the possibilities and the cost.
Great, thank you. Oh yes.
Hello, similarly on this, similarly on this cost line only, I wanted to ask, so you said that natural rubber latex gloves are produced, so it would be a little bit costlier than polyisoprene gloves that is there, or is it like same cost for the hospital or the healthcare organization?
I can answer for us, and it is of course a matter of a structure that we have or a strategy that we have, but mostly equal prices. It's the same.
And also one question more about the procedure pack that you said that all the packs can, like for surgical, everything can be in a one pack. So isn't it relatively costlier than like if a hospital is procuring in large scale wholesale? So is it like costlier than purchasing single use like single pack items, or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on each of the contracts in the different regions and districts. So we would also need to review that. I'm not sure what region you represent or what country, but happily to look in also to that. But of course, there is also service included with procedure pack trays, such as supporting, doing the procurement and all of that you don't have to do in the hospital.
Thank you. And I'm from India. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for your
questions. Likewise.
Thank you, Dr. Ishani. Great to have you here with us. And do any of the other speakers want to add anything to this matter of cost? No? Okay. Any other questions from the audience? I know that there are plenty of you out there still. Okay, no, so I actually have a question that I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about, because of course we heard today many opportunities when it comes to creating greener hospitals and healthcare, but with opportunities, of course, there are also a lot of challenges. So for our speakers, what in your experience stands in the way for simply rolling out or scaling up sustainable healthcare on a European or even on a global scale today? Perhaps we can hear from Henrik, FrostPharma.
I think from introducing a totally new material that hasn't been introduced anywhere else in the world, our practical challenges here in Sweden, where we started, has been to change how the tenders are set up. I think we will see. We've been one of the first that introduced the green alternatives in the tender. So they have one category for price and one for the greenest, the renewable alternative. So they have parallel categories in the tender. That's where they started. And then after that, they once they get used to the product, they can introduce just have a must criteria for renewable material. I think I also comment on the price issue, as you asked before. It's also, of course, a challenge, but it's a matter of if we're going to reach the climate goals as set up, if we're going to do this phase out of dependency on fossil-based oil, plastic is very, very cheap. And it's going to be cheaper because if we start to drive electric cars, they will use the oil for plastic instead of, fuel. So we need to take the healthcare need to take some of the cost to do this transfer. And you need to, so that even if it's more expensive, it's still the cheapest way of reaching your climate goals. So it's quite sad when a region or hospital have to change. Should we save the budget or should we save the planet? Which is, quite a sad decision to make, isn't it?
Indeed. Thank you, Henrik. Hjalmar from Hållbar Teknik, what are your thoughts on this? What are your biggest challenges?
Well, when it comes to renovation and sort of maintaining what's already in the hospitals and the buildings, it's often a matter of both what Henrik is talking about, that there is not really capacity or resources in procurement agencies to rethink. But what we come across a lot here in Sweden is a tradition, sort of a cultural or tradition, a bad habit of once you see a floor that's has been scratched or it's ugly or it's dirty, you tend to first just rip it out and buy new ones because you're not really aware of the alternatives and the solutions for renovating and refurbishing floors. It's very much sort of in the facility management tradition that you usually don't renovate floors. you buy new ones. So that's a big hurdle for us. So it requires information and campaigning just to make regions and hospitals aware that this solution exists, because most people we talk to, they are interested in working with us, if they only, so to say, as long as they know what we can do. they tend to be interested.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hjalmar and Henrik. I think it's an interesting point to make as well, that sometimes some of the biggest challenges are the psychological or the habits, because habits tend to be very sticky when it comes to what the different decisions that we make. So of course it's about making it easy and all these other factors, but sometimes it's about changing the world view, so to say. So thank you. Do we have any more questions now from the audience, now that you've gotten some minutes to think? Very quiet. Okay, so to wrap up then, I would like to ask you, Luqman from Stryker, as you made this point earlier in your presentation as well, about the approach of sort of the systems perspective of integrating solutions with other solutions. How do you see as the ideal scenario for this type of collaboration with Neptune 3? What would be the best perhaps solution to integrate with your solution? It's a big question, but maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks, Felicia. I'm glad you said it's a big question. So because I would agree with that. Well, I don't know whether I have the ideal solution, but I do think, just to relate to the point made earlier, I think it's a matter of making sure that our level of readiness, what I would call, both from manufacturers, both from hospitals, or let's say the stakeholders on the other side of the table. And at the same time, the willingness to pay or to invest. I think it should be seen as an investment, right? I think the shift from, yes, it's going to be have a higher price and more higher cost. Yeah, if we just stop there, yeah, everything that's more expensive you can remove, right? So then that's basically a very simple math. But I don't think that's the kind of right direction that we are looking for. Actually, what I would like to see is more of an investment mindset, taking a longer term perspective where we say, also to Henrik's point, yeah, today we are investing in saving our planet. And in the long run, we will be able to show that, eventually it has more benefits compared to what we will have if we don't invest in that planet. And I think that's where I would like to see the ideal solution, because we can probably develop the innovative technologies, the best technologies on the market, right? So we can come up with even better technologies. I think the barriers are probably more around our level of readiness and willingness to move together in that direction. And I think for that piece, we need to have all the stakeholders on board. So not just the manufacturers and the hospitals, but also the policymakers who are vital, I would say, in making sure that the environment is conducive or fruitful for companies, for hospitals, for surgeons, for staff, and for environmental policymakers to act together and find a holistic common ground where we can say, yeah, we started somewhere, but we clearly see a progress as we move forward. So I'm not sure whether that's the ideal solution, but at least maybe a step in that direction would help to create a more sustainable long-term solution for that.
If I
Yes.
Great. If I can comment, I think coming back to that, we've seen the great solutions. Everyone here has full LCAs where you have documented all the kilos. We need to be better on showing these tons and kilos that we save, and we need to be better on linking that to this new. I think it's a huge opportunity with this CSRD. If we use it correctly as producers, solution providers, to give them what they're actually buying. They're buying the reduction that they need to show. So let's use this CSRD regulations and let's do the reporting from our products into this mandatory reporting of CO2 reduction. I think it's next year will be a huge potential to show them the numbers, not just nice words.
Great. Thank you very much, Henrik. And thank you, Luqman. What a great end to this webinar. So I would like to thank all of you for participating, and of course, all the generous speakers here and the audience as well for your questions. So do have a look at the platform, the digital hospital, or greenesthospital.org. And we will be sharing the contact details of the speakers after the webinar as well, so you can continue the conversation also after this webinar. So we look forward to welcoming you back to all the future activities that we have going on in the network moving forward. So thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.